Introducing the 2026 USA Women's World Cup qualifying team. And on the graphic, you have Aaliyah Boston. Where is Caitlin Clark? Where's the moneymaker? Where's the needle mover? Where's the name that everybody knows? Where's the name that draws the most viewership? Where's the name that draws the most attention?
It is time for a blunt realization about the internal politics of USA basketball, because what we are seeing transcends mere oversight or a marketing blunder. We are witnessing a pointed, intentional effort to marginalize a generational talent. For the past 2 years, the established hierarchy of the women's game, the veterans and gatekeepers, reportedly anchored by the influence of icons like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi, has desperately tried to derail the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. They successfully blocked her from the 2024 Olympic roster. They attempted to physically intimidate her during her transition to the WNBA, only for her to thrive. They tried to ignore her impact in the media, yet her popularity only soared. Now, in 2026, the strategy has shifted toward active erasure. The official promotional materials for the 2026 World Cup qualifying squad have been released, and while Clark is finally on the roster, she is nowhere to be found in the campaign. The graphics prominently feature stars like Aaliyah Boston, Chelsea Gray, and Ryan Howard to drive ticket sales and global interest. Yet, the most recognizable basketball player in the world, the very person who fundamentally transformed the sport's financial landscape, has been systematically omitted from her own team's branding. This isn't just a mistake. It's a deliberate attempt to hide the face of the revolution.
Not on the starting lineup. When you realize her own coach isn't even advocating her to be on the starting lineup. Newsflash. You think, let's take a look. Hey, Stephanie, who do you think we should go with to start? Caitlin Clark, the player on your team, the generational talent, or Chelsea Gray? You look at me with a straight face and tell me Stephanie White's going to pick Caitlin Clark. And I'll look back at you and tell you you're lying. She's going to say, oh, Chelsea Gray, oh, old guard, oh.
This is where Sue Bird's influence becomes impossible to ignore. A skeptic might point out that Bird is retired, questioning her relevance to current marketing decisions. However, that ignores the reality of how power is wielded in this sport. As the unofficial godmother of the WNBA, Bird functions as a shadow commissioner, dictating the culture and setting the standards that everyone else follows. For the past 2 years, that standard has been defined by palpable resentment. If Bird wanted Caitlin Clark to be the centerpiece of USA basketball, Clark would be on every billboard and digital graphic produced. Had the Bird Taurasi era truly welcomed this new chapter, we would be witnessing a graceful transition of power. Instead, we are seeing a desperate attempt to gatekeep the spotlight. By intentionally sidelining Clark in their promotional materials, the establishment is broadcasting a loud, unmistakable message to the public. This isn't her team, it's ours. It is a calculated, passive-aggressive maneuver meant to keep a global superstar in her place. It serves as a reminder that regardless of how many records she breaks or how much revenue she generates, she is still expected to bow to the hierarchy Bird helped construct.
Team USA made a massive mistake in 2024, failing to capitalize on the freight train that was Caitlin Clark.
The financial logic, or lack thereof, behind this move is where the narrative shifts from mere oversight to undeniable sabotage. As the original video pointedly asks, where's the money maker? Think of it this way. If the NBA had marketed the 1992 Dream Team but scrubbed Michael Jordan from the posters to prioritize Chris Mullin, the entire marketing department would have been fired by lunch. This is basic business. Even as a nonprofit, USA Basketball lives and breathes on sponsorship, viewership, and public engagement. In Caitlin Clark, they have a literal golden goose, an athlete who commands millions of viewers just by stepping onto the hardwood. Choosing to omit her in favor of Ryan Howard, a stellar athlete, certainly, but one without an ounce of Clark's mainstream pull, is a deliberate executive decision. It's the result of a room full of people deciding they would rather have a smaller, controlled environment than a massive, lucrative one where Clark is the star. It is a classic case of ego over economics, The establishment would rather own the whole pie, even if it's shrinking, than share a massive one where she is the main ingredient. The situation becomes even more grim when you look at the projected lineup and coaching dynamics. The host suggests, and I tend to agree, that Clark won't even start. Instead, they'll likely lean on the veteran card, starting Chelsea Gray. While Gray is an undisputed legend, by 2026, Clark has cemented herself as the premier point guard on the planet. Benching her isn't just a coaching choice. It's an insult to the game's evolution. This is the old guard playbook, prioritizing seniority over raw production and waiting your turn over winning. Even Clark's own WNBA coach, Stephanie White, is on the staff as an assistant, appearing stamped and certified by the establishment. The fear is that these qualifying games in Puerto Rico won't be a showcase for Clark's brilliance, but a televised humbling ritual, a way to force her to sit, watch, and feel small. They are effectively masking petty professional jealousy behind the convenient excuses of team chemistry and patriotism.
Also reveals that Breanna Stewart will join the basketball women's national team in Miami for training camp March 7th through 8th. So she was announced on the roster, but she will be joining them for training camp March 7th through the 8th.
And we have to talk about the ghost at the training camp. The press release slipped in a detail that should make every Caitlin Clark fan furious. Breanna Stewart, who is not on the roster, who is not playing in the games, is joining the team for training camp in Miami. Why? Why does a veteran who isn't playing need to be there? Is she there to coach? No. Is she there to cheer? No. She is there to police. She is there as the enforcer of the old guard culture. She is there to make sure that the team doesn't become the Caitlin show. It feels like surveillance. It feels like the establishment doesn't trust the new generation, Caitlin, Paige, Buckers, Angel Reed to run the ship. So, they're sending a reminder to keep them in line. It is deeply condescending. It reinforces the idea that Caitlin is not a leader, but a child who needs supervision from the real legends. This connects directly to the unrivaled conspiracy. Remember Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, and by extension Sue Bird, who is an investor and advisor, have their own league to worry about. They have their own equity to protect. Is it possible, just possible, that they don't want Caitlin Clark to shine too brightly in USA basketball because it takes the shine away from the players they're trying to market and unrivaled? If Caitlin Clark goes to Puerto Rico and drops 40 points a game and becomes the undisputed face of the world, it hurts the brand of the veterans who claimed she wasn't ready. It hurts the narrative that the old guard is still superior. There is a conflict of interest here that reeks of corruption. They are using USA basketball as a vehicle to maintain their own market value while suppressing the one player who threatens their dominance. Let's look at the 2024 Olympic snub again, because that was the warning shot. When they left her off the team in Paris, they told us it was for basketball reasons. They said she needed rest. They gas-lit the entire country. And what happened? The ratings were fine, but they weren't historic. They won the gold, but nobody talked about it a week later. They missed the moment. And now, 2 years later, they're doubling down. They are proving that 2024 wasn't a mistake. It was a policy. The policy is contain Caitlin. The policy is to use her name to sell tickets if necessary. But never ever let her be the hero. Never let her be the face. Because if she becomes the face, then Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi become the past, and their egos simply cannot handle fading into the background. The disrespect to the fans is what makes this truly unforgivable. The casual fan mentioned in the video represents 90% of the basketball-watching public. These are the people who buy the merchandise. These are the people who pay for the cable packages. They want to see Caitlin Clark. They don't know who the other players are. And that's not their fault. It's the fault of a league that failed to market them for 20 years. By hiding Caitlin, USA Basketball is telling those millions of fans, we don't respect you. They are telling the fans that their preferences don't matter. It is a level of gatekeeping that is toxic to the sport. They would rather have a pure basketball purist audience of 5,000 people than a global audience of 5 million. If that global audience is only there for Caitlin, it is the definition of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Subur's refusal to actively promote Caitlin as the heir apparent is the silence that speaks volumes. Bird is everywhere. She has a podcast. She is on TV commercials. She is at every major event. She knows how to build a star. If she wanted to, she could put her arm around Caitlin Clark today and say, "This is the future. Watch her." That one gesture would end the war. It would youth the generations, but she won't do it. She refuses to do it. Instead, we get silence. We get graphics without Caitlin's fate. We get leaks about her coming off the bench. We get training camp visits from her best friend, Breanna Stewart. It is a coordinated effort to keep the spotlight on the birdcage clique and keep Caitlin on the outside looking in. And let's look at the other names on that roster. Paige Bueckers, Angel Ree. These are the next-gen stars. They are being brought in, but they are being neutralized by grouping them all together under the supervision of the old guard coaches and menders. USA Basketball is trying to dilute their individual brand. They are trying to force them into a system that stifles their creativity. Caitlin Clark thrives when she is given the keys. We saw it at Iowa. We saw it with the Indiana Fever. But USA Basketball is a system designed to strip away individuality and enforce conformity. And for a player like Caitlin, that is a death sentence. They are going to try to turn a Ferrari into a minivan. They are going to make her pass the ball to Chelsea Gray and stand in the corner. And when she struggles because she is being misused, they will turn around and say, "We told you she wasn't that good." It is a trap. The whole training camp is a trap. The video host says, "I hope this is just a graphic, but we know better." In the world of high-level sports marketing, nothing is just a graphic. Every pixel is approved. Every placement is debated. Leaving Caitlin Clark off, that image required sign-off from the highest levels. It required someone to look at the layout and say, "Yes, this is what we want." That person, whoever it is an enemy of the growth of the game. They are putting personal politics above the health of the sport. And the fact that Subbard hasn't called it out, the fact that she hasn't used her immense platform to correct this injustice, tells us exactly whose side she is on. She is on the side of the establishment. She is on the side of the status quo. So what happens when the games actually start in Puerto Rico? We need to be prepared for the narrative war. If Caitlin comes off the bench, the media, the friendly media that Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe have cultivated for years, will spin it as learning the ropes. They will say she needs to earn her stripes. They will gaslight us again. They will try to normalize the idea that the best player in the world is a role player on Team USA. We cannot let them get away with it. We have to call it out now. This is sabotage. This is jealousy. This is a desperate attempt by a fading generation to hold on to power for one more cycle. They can hide her face on a poster. They can bury her on the depth chart. They can send Breanna Stewart to intimidate her. But they are fighting gravity. Caitlin Clark is inevitable. The more they try to suppress her, the more the fans will revolt. The comment section in the video is already on fire. The Twitter threads are burning. The fans see through the game. USA Basketball thinks they are being subtle, but they are being transparently petty. They are ushering in a new era. Yes, but they are doing it kicking and screaming. They are dragging their feet, hoping that if they delay long enough, the Caitlin Clark hype will die down and they can go back to their comfortable obscurity. But the hype isn't dying, it's growing. And this latest insult, this refusal to market the face of the franchise, is only going to add fuel to the fire. Subbard and the old guard might win this battle of the graphic, but they have already lost the war for the soul of the sport. The future is Caitlin, and no amount of Photoshop can change.